How's it going, everybody? It's your guy Wardy here, and I'm smiling cheek to cheek after the Amazons just took down the Pittsburgh Pirates in a walk-off fashion by a final score of 4-3. So in case you guys didn't check out my immediate live post-game reaction and analysis where you guys can consume it both here on YouTube and wherever you get your audio podcasts, please check it out from this past night. And thank you so much for doing exactly that, because in this Big Mets update segment here, before we kickstart Game 2 against the Pirates later on this evening that we'll have you guys covered for, we have to get into the very important news on the front of not just Jose Siri and his rehab, but most notably Sean Manaea, as he just took a massive step to inch himself closer to returning to this Metropolitan rotation. And from there, we're going to get into the latest on the farm. Like we do every single day on the platform throughout the course of the 162, we give you guys live updates there from St. Lucie all the way up to Syracuse for the prospect front. And even though that there were no minor league games that transpired this past Monday, there were key promotions that we're going to break down there for both the Brooklyn Cyclones and the Roma Ponies, and seeing why these guys were promoted and ultimately what their upside is there at least the Mets farm level. Thank you guys kindly for smashing the like and subscribe on as you first chime in, and letting me know all your initial reactions in the comments down below. And I would love to hear from you guys the following. One, your initial reactions to the Sean Manaea and Jose Siri news that we're about to break down. And secondly, who is your favorite prospect in the Mets farm as a pitcher and as a hitter, and why? Let me hear in the comments down below. I'd really love to see that. But folks, before we get into it, let's also shout out our amazing sponsor here at BetUS that has you covered with all of your sports betting needs. Make sure you guys bet responsibly. Should you, of course, dabble? That was the most important thing here first and foremost. But whether you guys are interested on the sports betting front or the casino front, because BetUS has you covered on all facets, head over there to betus.com.pa today and utilize our amazing promo code YouTube150. That is YouTube150. That way YouTube get a 150% bonus on your first deposit, $125 on your second and your third, up to $2,000 for whatever you guys want to bet on. And as you guys see beside me right now, the New York Mets are currently at plus 900 odds right now to be the number one seed out of what we see there in baseball, especially the National League. The Dodgers are at minus 600. The Mets are at plus 900. The Cubs are currently at plus 1200 from the time of me getting this graphic initially, everybody. So if you guys have interest in having some biased bets that you want to dabble on, specifically for our New York Mets, they have you covered with various different props in place. So make sure to be on the lookout for exactly that. And shout out once more to BetUS. But guys, let's get right into this and let's get into the news. And let's start here on the front of Jose Siri, because this first came out just over the past weekend from Carlos Mendoza, but I feel like a lot of people didn't get a chance to acknowledge or really pay attention to, because we were all locked into what was a very exciting series there against the Chicago Cubs. But listen up, everybody.
And just Jose Siri was in the clubhouse. He mentioned that he has been running, he's been playing catch, stuff like that. Just where is he in his progression, and when can we expect him to start a rehab?
Yeah, definitely progressing a lot quicker than we were anticipating. I didn't think he was going to be able to be doing some running and already hitting in the cages, tee, toss, playing catch, doing some light sprints there. So as far as when do we anticipate, it's hard for me, but he's moving, he's progressing a lot quicker.
See, everybody, great news regarding Jose Siri, as he's already starting to hit in cages. He's starting to be on the field, and we just saw this past day there before Game 1 against the Pirates. Here's Jose Siri on the field, getting some work in, getting some stretches in, getting some catches in. That is Jose Siri, everybody, and that's exciting news for the Mets, because you can never have enough depth. That's the most important thing. And since Jose Siri has went down with injury, the Mets have been more than fine at center field, thankfully, and that's a very exciting and encouraging thing. But even having said that, and even with the Luis Robert trade rumors that's been going on the past 24 to 48 hours that we broke down in our video yesterday, so please make sure to check it out in case you guys haven't already. Even with the Luis Robert stuff, even with Jeff McNeil getting center field reps, even with Tyrone Taylor playing really good baseball the past couple weeks now, we've seen for the most part, Jose Siri brings an element to this Mets team that can't be understated. And what that element is in similarity to Luis Angel Acuna and his absolute electric speed there on the base pass. Knowing that Jose Siri is as uber athletic as he is, yes, the bat can be very fickle. You don't know what you're getting. You're either getting a guy that can hit for 15 to 20 home runs in a season there, but is he even going to bat the Mendoza line in the process? We know he pimps home runs, and we know he has ridiculous defensive range, one of the best center fielders in Major League Baseball, not just with his amazing sprint speed, but also his arm strength that is literally the top of the game. That's how good he is. He can throw you out deep in right field, backing up Juan Soto to get you out at third base, trying to leg a triple. That is the Jose Siri way. So I'm excited, very much so, to see Jose Siri back with this Mets team for his defensive upside, for his base running upside, because he was stealing runs single-handedly. Remember that run he stole there against his former team in the Astros to kickstart the series to begin the season, right? So we've seen him already flash things in various ways, and he was looking exciting leading up to his injury. And I understand, again, the bat is very Jekyll and Hyde in what you're getting, but the Mets aren't overly relying on him to be this surefire guaranteed thing with his offensive upside, as long as he's providing in these other areas that the Mets are going to be looking for him to do exactly that. And this is a great problem to have if you're the New York Mets right now, because whether Jose Siri even stays on this Mets roster pardon me, everybody, for the remainder of the season, or if he is, say, parted with, if he's DFA'd, if he's traded leading up to the deadline, because maybe the Mets do go out, F around, and in fact land Luis Robert via trade. If they go the lengths to do that, and David Stearns lands the guy that he's seeking at a young age of 27, then the Mets again have an abundance of riches as to what you do with your outfield depth. And you can never have enough depth, and if you can store them in-house, that's great. It's hard to envision a guy like Siri obviously being picked up, not being picked up, if you would say DFA'd by this Mets team. He's not on a big contract at all, so that can be enticing to teams here. But Siri is still one of these guys I know can and will be effective for this team upon his arrival, so be on the lookout for that, Mets fans. It looks like that he will not be long before he finds himself really starting to ramp up with his rehab, starting there, I'd imagine, either St. Lucie or AA, and then kind of working up from there to ultimately return to this Mets team and their lineup. But Jose Siri is looking good. Now let's talk about who's also looking good right now. And I'm very happy and very excited to get into this, because this has everything to do with, yes, Sean Manaea. So let's go ahead and show you guys what is happening on that front. Just bear with me 1 second, everybody. This is the one that I've been wanting to talk about. This is the Sean Manaea one. Now, in case you guys did not see this article from this past day from SNY, I implore you to check it out, because as you can see, Mets Sean Manaea takes huge step forward to return from injury. And as we get into a bit more as to what those details entail regarding Sean Manaea, they are as follows, everybody. Listen up. Manaea threw off the mound for the first time in his recovery process, getting up to 15 pitches, Carlos Mendoza told the media just this past day before the Mets and Pirates game kick-started. It's a massive step toward a return to the big league club for Manaea, who signed his 3-year $65 million deal. That's Juan Soto, the $75 million deal there with the New York Mets. Paul Blackburn, obviously, is continuing to ramp up there in his rehab, and he's also nearing a return as he is going to pitch this Friday for AAA Syracuse. Carlos Mendoza said the following, and I quote, "I think he has 4 innings, 65 pitches," Mendoza said. "I'm not sure what's the pitch count. We're waiting to check with him when he gets in here today and tomorrow, but the plan is for him to make another rehab start on Friday, and then from there, he should pretty much be good to go." Paul Blackburn just 48 hours ago, at the time of this video being initially recorded, had himself getting up 3 earned runs across 3 innings in his latest rehab outing. So we'll see how he does next time out there. But very exciting news on the front of Sean Manaea, who's finally on the mound for the first time since initially going down with injury back in spring training. Manaea, as we know, inked that 3-year, $75 million deal with the Mets in large part because of the dominance that he had towards the second half of the season. Making that proper arm slot change and utilizing himself more so in a Chris Sale type fashion with his release was causing great swing and miss, especially lefty batters. That sweeper was disgusting. You know what you're getting with that entire arsenal. And the fact that he hammers a sinker in the top of the zone as consistently as he does and induces the amount of outs that he does is a very impressive thing to see. So to say I'm excited about Sean Manaea returning this Mets team is quite the understatement, but great steps in the right direction, everybody. And I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below. On a scale 1 to 10, how excited are you for the Samoan Southpaw to ultimately return to this Mets rotation? Because once Manaea and Frankie Montas get their rehabs ramped up, it looks like Manaea might be slightly ahead of schedule. Montas now, initially it was the opposite. I don't know if that's going to change or stay the same. All I can tell you is that both are expected to begin their rehab assignments within the next week or two, and then from there, obviously, it will just be a matter of when, not if, the Mets return to them, which everything is slated right now to probably be a return, if not by the end of May, then certainly the beginning of June there against the LA Dodgers in LA. So whether it's that first series in LA or that weekend thereafter. Needless to say, Sean Manaea and Frankie Montas are now just a couple weeks away from returning to this Mets team, because we're already halfway through May. So you'd have to imagine a rehab is going to start within the next week and a half to 10 days or so. Otherwise, then they are going to be set back and they're probably not going to be able to return in time for the beginning of June there. So things are looking fantastic on both the Jose Siri and the Sean Manaea front. And speaking of things that look fantastic, let's appreciate the kids on the farm that are blossoming right now, and deservedly so, getting the aggressive call-ups from David Stearns there in the front office. And let's begin here, everybody, with what you guys can see there for the Rummel Ponies, as Anthony Nunez and Dylan Ross were both the call-ups there to said thing. And I think something very notable on that front is the fact that Anthony Nunez didn't have his sharpest outing the last time out there, but was still productive, and he has himself an absolutely absurd .63 ERA. Apologies for the sneeze. It's allergy season, if you guys couldn't tell. Cooking me every single day right now. A .63 ERA for Anthony Nunez and a 15.1 K per nine. Just nasty good. Then we look at Dylan Ross. Dylan Ross was looking fantastic there for the St. Lucie Mets as well, that we see, as he had, and he's, I said the St. Lucie Mets because he's coming there to the Rummel Ponies, so I meant to say the Cyclones. I apologize, everybody. Dylan Ross, a 1.54 ERA, 17.7 K per nine. Like, are you kidding me? And he's touched 101 on the gun. Yeah, that's really, really good. I'm not complaining about that whatsoever. Nunez and Ross are just two of many pitching prospects that have really blossomed in the early goings of the minor leagues so far this season. When I think of not only Felipe De La Cruz, but I also think of Noel McLean, the obvious one. I think of so many different guys. Thornton, who was moved up there just over the past week and a half, 2 weeks now. He's slated to pitch today, actually, there in the minor leagues. I'll give you guys a little bit of the prospect rundown on the matchups that we know right now before I get out of here for the games that'll happen later on today at the time of this video coming out. But Anthony Nunez and Dylan Ross both impressed big time that we saw there. And hopefully they can continue their dominance now as they're moving up to AA, because AA is a big step. Many believe AA to be the hardest level of competition for prospects usually, because you have a lot of guys that are top prospect talents that honestly at times can be so good that they don't even need to go to AAA, or if they do, they just get a quick sprinkling of a seasoning before hitting the big. So while yes, there is a floor, to say the least, by being in AA, there's also a ceiling when it comes to the talent that at sometimes is going to supersede even what you're getting in AAA, because AAA consists of not only top prospects, but also a lot of wannabe MLB players. You know, guys that are going to be stuck as fringe MLB talents that really aren't going to go anywhere, former top prospects that failed, things along those lines. And whereas in AA, you're going to really have a good chunk of those top prospects in the game today, trying to ball out, give their best attempt to get all the way to the bigs. Maybe instead of not even hitting AAA, they just go right from AA to the bigs. And I think of Juan Soto right away when I think of a man who's done that. There have been many over the years who have done that, especially on the pitching front. I mean, just ask the LA Angels. They don't even like to have their guys in the minor leagues because they don't know how to develop if it smacked them across the face. They just have them in their rotation, their bullpen straight out of their draft year. Why? Because they're the Angels. But no need to get on a tangent about one of the worst owners in sports in Artie Moreno. Let's focus on more of the good here on the prospect front, and let's get into some really exciting stuff regarding Matt Allan, Ramon Gomez, and Nate Dome. Now, this is big, big news because Matt Allan did give up 3 earned runs in 1 inning just a day ago in his latest outing, but that didn't change the fact that the Mets were happy with what they got, because it's not just about production as is bulk for Matt Allan, who's drafted as a top prospect for them in 2019. We know Allan hasn't played any professional organized baseball up until this season due to multiple surgeries that he's had, especially on the Norval end after having Tommy John surgery. So it's been quite the ramp up to finally get Matt Allan here to the level that he is with this Mets team. And the reason why we should be so excited is because Allan has just taken a great step in the right direction. And even if he stays the whole year in Brooklyn, okay. But now there's a reality where Matt Allan could find himself potentially in AA at least before the end of the year, which is huge. I love the aggressive call-ups. Clearly, David Stearns and everyone else in company are happy with the makeup that they're getting in the minor leagues, even if they're not necessarily getting a tremendous amount of innings or the results aren't always going to be there. They're happy with a healthy Matt Allan and what he's providing, so hopefully he continues to blossom there, that we're going to see now for High A Brooklyn. Another guy that I'm excited to get into is not only Nate Dome, because Nate Dome has a 3.18 ERA. Didn't favor too well in his previous start too, but that's okay. A roughly 11K per nine, and Matt Allan has an over 10K per nine. So for some context there, they're striking out guys at a great clip and their limited sample sizes. But there's one guy that stands out far more than anyone else, especially when it comes to striking out guys on an absurd clip, and that's Ramon Gomez. The same Ramon Gomez that we broke down the platform, the guy who touched 104.5 on the gun, and just this past day or so had himself a scoreless outing in 1.1 innings, striking out the side, 4 total strikeouts, and topped out at 102. Yeah, Ramon Gomez with that same 0.69 nice ERA. He is now moving up now to, yes, the Brooklyn Cyclones. And Gomez is such an absurd flamethrower, one of the hardest throwers, if not the hardest thrower currently in all minor league baseball. Now, this is a guy that could easily find himself, I think, with Syracuse before the season ends, if not something greater. Velo is what's going to carry you with so many guys in today's game, but especially when you're doing it as proficiently as Ramon Gomez is. Now let's see how he handles greater competition in high A with the Brooklyn Cyclones, and then going on from there to the Bay Rum Ponies, then ultimately the Syracuse Mets, and then bam, the New York Mets. The Mets have an abundance of really exciting arms, from starter types to bulk reliever types to closer setup man types in the minor leagues right now. Ryan Lambert comes to mind right away too. My guy Ryan Ammons, among others. There are an abundance of guys, especially when I look at Brooklyn and AA with the Rumble Ponies. That specifically has a bunch. Then obviously AAA Syracuse, you have a bunch of fringe MLB type talents right there waiting in the wings. Chris Davinsky, originally Jesus Cabrera, but now it's just Anthony Ghost as the lone southpaw there. Felipe De La Cruz, who's being utilized as a reliever now, who I absolutely love, but he's a true prospect, not a grizzled vet that hasn't really made it at the MLB level per se. You look at obviously what you're going to have there in Kevin Herget, Tyler Zuber when he's right, Rico Garcia, the list goes on. Sean Reed Foley, but he's been horrendous. He's been batting practice. Unfortunately, Grant Hartwig has been better. So again, there have been positives that we've seen in the minor leagues for Syracuse, but I did want to emphasize some of those, and for good reason. So before we get out of here, everybody, let me leave you with the following, which is what is happening in each of these respective games for today, because we don't know all of the expected pitching matchups, unfortunately. So I'm going to just relay what I personally know from what I'm looking at right now. And what I know on the pitching matchups is the fact that for the high A Cyclones, they have Mr. Brendan Gurton and his 4.26 ERA across 19 innings this season, getting the start in the Cyclones matchup against the Dash. We also see that for the Syracuse Mets, they have, and I apologize, I meant to say the Rumble Ponies, they have Southpaw Thornton, who did not have a good debut there this past week or so that we've seen with the Rumble Ponies after looking great otherwise in Brooklyn so far this season. His 7.71 ERA in a very limited sample size. He's doing much better outside of that. Is facing off against the Yard Goats in what is a head-to-head matchup for the Rumble Ponies and the Yard Goats. Both tied 18 and 13 so far this season, and they're second and third right now in the Northeast rankings. So as we get on to the Syracuse Mets, who is getting the start, that has yet to be determined, so I can't answer that, unfortunately, from what I'm seeing right now. But they are playing the Iron Pigs, and the Iron Pigs have bested the Mets so far this season, if I'm not mistaken. So, folks, that is going to do it for our latest Big Mets Update segment. I hope you guys enjoyed the content. If you did, especially on the Manaea, Jose Siri front, prospect front, and everything in between, please let us know all your key takeaways, again, in the comments down below. Thank you once more for watching, and I will see you all later on today for our guaranteed post-game live show directly after the ball game, but you may also see a pre-game live show depending on my schedule and seeing if it's warranted or not. So until then, have a great one, folks, and as always, no matter what, let's go Mets. Peace out.